Welcome, time for some art fun. Today we're going to review these real brush pens, so stick around for some fun. I'm going to go through these different brush pens with you. These are a few sample paintings that I've made with them over time, and I'm going to also make a sample painting with you today. I have two different brands of these real brush pens. I've got Arteza, like this, and then I've got the Ohuhus, which are a little bit shorter, so you can see. Let me try to hold them level. It's hard. Okay, so that's the Ohuhu, that's the Arteza. I got a 12 pack of the Arteza, and those colors were so great. I loved them so much that I wanted a bigger set. But I saw these Ohuhus were so inexpensive at the time. 48 pack. The only downside is that there's literally no color name, and with so many colors, that's the purple. And then this one was like a green, and there were a lot of greens, so I wrote yellow olive on it. I was just making up names and I put them on these little labels and just labeled every single tail end of every one of the Ohuhus when I made my big color chart that I showed you. And the fact is, those come off if you don't like see how that's coming off. Really annoying. Oh, so even though the color selection was so beautiful and I loved it, this is so annoying. And unless you tape each thing down, it's really, I don't know what you do. I honestly don't know what you're supposed to do. I'm sure they've fixed it since, and I just got the set that had this issue. But if it didn't have that issue, if it was labeled, I would definitely, this would be a huge deal. Now, it still is a huge deal, and they're still really cool, and I'll show you what I mean. Obviously, I've made this piece, and let me just do some samples for you on this side. So this is the Ohuhu. Basically, you can do dry brush effects like that. Just by what I do is I lay it down like that and then zhuzh it up, and that's how I did a lot of this grass. You can do concentrated color just by going a little bit more slowly. It seems to be a speed thing, so if I go really fast, I can get those effects, but if I go slowly, it'll look more like that. And that's the same for all the colors. This is just one of my favorite colors. So let's say it's still wet, and I get in there real quick with my water brush. Then I can spread the color around, just like watercolor. Look how beautiful. I love these things. You can get such cool effects with these things. And what I like to do is carry them around in a little pack like that, because otherwise they can get really unwieldy. Obviously I have that giant roll for the Ohuhus because there's so many of them. But this is still a little wet, so you can drop color in, kind of like the wet on wet technique with watercolor. And if it's not wet enough for you, you just go back in with some more water. But look at those beautiful layering effects. I love this gray, the Arteza gray, because when you wet it, so you put it down like this, it just looks like a regular old bluish gray. But if you hit it with some water, it just has blues and slate and all different colors in it. It's so pretty. I love that gray. I use it for a lot of different things. Here's some blue. Just dropping the blue in. Now, because this is so wet, it'll actually, the water gets sucked up into the brush tip sometimes, and the color won't even come out if it's too wet. And that's good that I was able to show you that, because that does happen. And here, see, if I lay it on its side and I go a little fast, I get those dry brush techniques. So cool. And then this is just a beautiful forest green. I did a really cute fox with this gray and this green. That's my dog digging in his bed behind me because he really wants some attention right now. I'm gonna get right to him. I just want to finish this for you guys. The black is really cool. This is the Ohuhu black. And I love this black. I loved it in this Puffin, but look at that. If you just drag your water along the edge, look what a cool effect that gets. Ooh, is that cool? I love how satisfying that is. Just putting some water on these babies, you get such cool effects. Now I can't help myself and I want to get some on this blue. Ooh, pretty. Okay. just doodling, just doodling, having some fun. Some bright green. You hear him? He's really, ooh, he wants some attention. Do you guys have any pets that do this when you're in your studio trying to have some fun and play with some materials, some cool materials, and your puppy or your cat just starts demanding you change your topic to them? I don't mind. He's so cute. He's so cute. Yes, I'm going to play with you in 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes. We're just playing with our pens. This is some purple. These are the Ohuhus again. Same thing. You can get those dry brush effects. You can probably see that even more easily than the beautiful olive. And you can get that beautiful bleed. Now this is a dirty brush, but we're just going for it. We're just going for it. Oh my goodness, these are so much fun to play with. Do you see what I'm saying? I love playing with them, but I forget sometimes. The only downside to me of these is that they're not, they're individual things, just like, with pencils or Posca pens, where if you have a big collection, it can get a little unwieldy. That's sort of what these are like. But it is so, these are so much fun, and they're so affordable to get into, and to be able to make, big pieces like that are so vibrant. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to see it in action and show you just how vibrant and gorgeous these colors can be with this little painting of a couple of puffins just hanging out on a seaside cliff. So I loved how this painting came out. I shouldn't get ahead of myself, but let me just give you a spoiler alert. I loved it. This was one of my favorite parts. I used a slate blue and a cascade green to make this water effect, and I just thought it was so beautiful. So I laid down the color, and then I laid down some water, and that's really what you're gonna see the whole way through, is lay down color, lay down some water. And sometimes I choose not to lay down any water, to leave this sort of dry brush effect here for some texture. And I'm just laying down a ton of dry brush effects for the grasses, and then I'm gonna lay down some water to blend some of it out and make it sort of dreamy. And I'm also doing a bunch of different layers for the shadows under the birds, and you can start to really see them here once the background is in a little bit better. I love how you can see the main characters sort of appear when you get some of the background laid down. So I'm just spreading some of that color out with the water and then adding more layers of individual grasses, and that's really going to be a lot of what you see for the background. Another technique that I love to do is to lay down some water and then drop some color into it. And I do that mostly with the Puffins' faces, with the black on their faces. They have black stripes on their heads and on their backs, and you'll see that there. But these are just some close-ups for you to see the dry brush effect in action and what it sort of looks like at this stage. I really actually liked how it looked at this stage and could have left it without a ton of water. But then I saw how the water looked on the rocks and decided to lump a bunch of water onto it at the end. So I'm laying in, when I lay down the water there and then put on the black so it spreads and has just different shadows and different textures, even to something that could be a solid black. I didn't want it to just be totally solid black. That's why I'm using some water with all of the different blacks in here. I love how the black works with real brush pens. I just think it's so cool how you can just run a wet brush across the black at the edge and make the shadows really cool. You'll see that at the end. But these are super easy to control. They're really fun to use. You sort of feel like you're making your own coloring book and then coloring it in. At least that's how I feel when I do a pen outline of what I'm going to paint and then do something like this into the outline. I feel like I'm doing a little homemade coloring book. It's really fun. And so here's where I'm just putting the wet brush right onto that black paint and just accentuating the shadows. And now I'm really loving how these rocks came out. Just so you know, in the end, that area of this whole painting was my favorite part. It was just laying down the shadows and then running some water over that area and seeing all of the different pooling. It's all very unpredictable when you use the water. And I actually really love that about how these work. So let's do our satisfying tape peel before we start laying down more details. Don't get excited, we're not done, because we're gonna have a lot more details to lay down, but I wanted to see how it was looking without the tape while I did that, because I was done with laying down huge areas and I knew I didn't need the tape anymore. I'd be able to stay inside the lines without the tape. So I always like to slow this part down. This is always my favorite part of watching other people's paint along with me's or, you know, tutorials, is seeing that gorgeous tape peel. So enjoy. But yeah, at this point I was looking at it and thinking, I want to do some more water. I want to do some more details. And I just want to consider how I want to finish it up. And because I'm a multimedia artist and I work a lot with watercolor, I'm used to lifting. And so I tried lifting some of the sort of pools of water here on this particular rock by just taking a wet brush and scrubbing the wet brush onto that pool. And it did work, but not as well as it would work with watercolor. These are very, very staining. You're really not going to pick them up. And if you saw there, when I laid down a ton of water and everything just sort of pooled right into it, even though this has been sitting there for quite some time at this point, it still was willing to work with me that way, so that's cool. But if I tried to scrub that up, it's probably not going to go too much of anywhere. It's going to still be a colored piece of paper with those colors. It's not going to go back to the white page the way that you can with watercolor when you scrub it up, as long as it's not a staining color. So just bear that in mind. It doesn't work like watercolor in that sense. It's a little bit different. And these, I think it's because these pigments are just so strong. These colors are so vibrant. I mean, look at that greenish blue in the water and the left over there. That's definitely my favorite part of this whole painting, other than the little babies. But I just love how this particular art supply looks over there. So once I got this where I wanted it, I decided I wanted to go in with some gouache and do my multimedia thing that I love to do, and just put some grasses back on top, because the fact is nothing was going to show up on the black real brush pens there on the back of the Puffin other than an opaque medium. So I was not going to be able to go in with a beige real brush pen and have it show up on the back of that thing. It was not going to happen. I hope it comes through. Is this background, this greenish slate blue sea part, and these beautiful rocks, the effects that gray gave those rocks. So hopefully if you found this video and you're thinking about getting them, hopefully this helped you decide or helped you think about what you might be inspired to make with them. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and make sure to check if you're subscribed. If you're not, I would so appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. Until next time, remember, create something cute.